have you learned about helping individuals and organizations move from good intentions to real action? Because having good intentions alone is not enough, but real action is what is needed. So what have you learned over the years?
Well, first of all, thank you for that, Francis. It's lovely to know that you have read some of my stuff. And actually, your research for our second session together has been wonderful. The questions you have sent me have just really opened up my thinking. It's important to recognise that most people, nearly everybody, has good intentions. However, that plays out. I'd never deny it, and it's really important to always recognise it. I think in most cases, leaders genuinely believe they're leading cultures that align with the values of their website, of their mission. Of course, I work mostly in public service. You would like to think that everybody goes into public service with good intentions. Maybe not quite everybody, but, you know, you'd like to think that. But like I said before, they fizzle out because attention isn't paid to the culture of the organisation or the mindset of individuals. I think we're still working with these old patterns of leadership where we believe we can mandate things from the top and they will just happen. We're still working with the old systems. There's nothing wrong with being held to account for public money. That's absolutely right. And that should always happen, that accountability. But that's all we do. And it sets up those cultures of compliance that only serve a certain set of demands. So that means that when something existential comes along, the climate emergency, biodiversity emergency, something so existential that humans have never had to deal with it before, we don't have a KPI for it and we don't know what to do. Honestly and truly, what I have learned is that to every question, community is probably always the answer. I've learned that we need to pause if we're going to think together about doing anything differently. When we're rushing along at 100 miles an hour, there is no opportunity to dream, to think of anything new. When we're exhausted all the time by the demands of capitalism, we can't dream, we can't think. So I'm going to come back to the thinking environment here and say that there isn't a piece of work that I do where the thinking environment is not in there somewhere. And that maybe the most important thing that I ever say to the people that I work with is just pause. Just pause. Pause so you can notice. Pause so you can think. Pause so you can dream. Just slow down. Let's take a moment. Right. What question do we need to ask ourselves? And that's how I think we move from good intentions to sustainable action, because out of that pausing, out of those really fine questions, that joyful potential, that change-making energy, those ideas have space. And then we start to have momentum. There's work involved with getting other people on board, with influencing the systems, but that's where the momentum begins.